Hi folks, Puffin here, and this is your Antifa News Briefa continued for August 18th, 2021. America just spent 20 years, $1 trillion in the University of War Doesn't Work in Afghanistan. I think these days they have campuses all over the world. Let's see if we actually graduated, because war doesn't work. But did we get the message? Did we get the value for what we paid for? I was talking in the previous video about how Putin is, the puppet master of Trump. That's why Trump set it up this way, set it up to fail and be, terrible situation in Afghanistan in order to make America look bad, in order to destroy America. That's pretty much Trump's MO, as handed to him by Putin. Why is Putin like this? Again, in my previous video, I go into, the Russian war in Afghanistan, how Reagan sponsored Osama bin Laden to, keep Russia there, which is ultimately what broke them up. So Afghanistan is to Putin like, Yokod to the USSR. He looks at it like USSR got involved with Afghanistan, and then they broke up shortly after that. So he wants revenge for his precious, nationalism against America. I don't know what he has against Brazil and India and everything. Maybe it's just racism. But he used Facebook to get Trump elected. Facebook makes a lot of fake accounts and stuff. So they made it seem like Trump was popular. It becomes a thing. Used Facebook to get Trump elected, Bolsonaro elected in Brazil, Modi elected in India. All using Facebook, like simple trick. When you nationalize Facebook and arrest Mark Zuckerberg for his role in all this, you'll get all the files on that. Easy to figure out. But anyway, then they use Facebook as well and fake accounts to spread, fake virus information, antivirus information, anti-vax information, anti-mask information, all this stuff. And they have some real people that get swept up in it and go show up at protests or whatever who aren't actual parents of the schools they're protesting. They do that, but it's mostly this online trolling effort, and it's produced a genocide. It'll be called in the future Trump virus genocide. But have we learned our lesson, like all over feeling like Afghanistan broke up the Soviet Union, being mad about that, and trying to hurt other people over basically being a whiny baby, Putin? But anyway, Putin's a traitor to Russia, so I don't try to lump Russia in with it. I mean, of course, he's forced some people to troll for him and stuff. But Putin's just a traitor to humanity. All these Nazi fascists are traitors to humanity. That's why we're against them. And war itself is a betrayal of humanity. That's why we're against it. So I'm watching Representative Barbara Lee, who was the only congressperson to vote out of like 400 something, only one to vote against the war in Afghanistan 3 days after 9/11. And she was just like, what are we getting into here back then? Even she, and I respect her, I think she's right, she's got great points, but even she phrased it as, we shouldn't be nation building in Afghanistan, as if the military is okay until it gets around to nation building. Honestly, war's just wrong. Don't do it anymore. Nation building would be fine. If you're actually building a nation, if you're actually trying to help, trying to do constructive things, that'd be fine, dumping billions, $1 trillion on a country. You would really impress them and win them over to your ideology by being able to dump $1 trillion on a country and have it all be helpful stuff. When it's a bunch of weapons that are eventually just given to the people who are have terrorist tendencies, who have run the country before and are sworn to run it again and are just going to take those weapons and run it, that's just dumb. Like, military doesn't work. That's what America's done in the last 2 big wars, in the last 2 big threats where they make it seem like things are really scary. Is ISIS. I mean, it is really scary in the countries where they're happening, and they manage to actually affect us and scare the American public and think, what have we gotten ourselves into? But we haven't stopped doing it. So we dump all these weapons on Iraq, and then when ISIS takes over, they get all these weapons. And then we've dumped all these weapons in Afghanistan. I mean, we've done some other things too. We've put a lot of weaponry there. And it pleases the weapons manufacturers and the warmongers. But we need to stop that, because look what happens. All we do is give people a bunch of free weapons in order to oppress people again, and then have an excuse to continue a cycle. No, we need to stop the cycle. If we're the number one war manufacturer and the number one expenditures on war, USA spends 10 times more than the next 10 countries combined. we can just stop the game. And this game is really what, drove the Soviet Union to collapse. We should have the revenge on the game and not on these players, and be able to stop a bad system so that it doesn't hurt people anymore. That's why when Trump is the Taliban now, yeah, he helped them in order to perpetuate this system, just like Karzai, Bush's guy, even though he's not in power, orchestrated all the handover of power. So, it's all like they're all on the same team just to sell weapons. We need to stop them, boycott, shut it down.